The council chamber was silent, but not peaceful. Hundreds of eyes watched Princess Veolyra as she stood alone in the center of the circular floor. The ceiling above her glowed with the stars of 1,000 systems. The symbols of every major species in the galaxy shone along the walls. She stood tall, her silver crown resting lightly against her dark hair. But no one in that room saw a leader. They saw a decoration. Princess Veolyra of the Aethery Dominion was known for grace, not strategy. She gave speeches. She opened trade summits. She attended ceremonies. She smiled at the right time and spoke with perfect control. War was not her role. At least, that was what everyone believed. The border crisis had changed everything. 3 outer colonies had reported strange fleet movements near their territory. Supply ships had vanished. Listening posts had gone dark. No one claimed responsibility. But everyone knew something was coming. The Galactic Council had demanded proof. "Show us your strength," they had said, "or we reconsider your defensive status." For the Aethery Dominion, that was close to an insult. And now, all eyes were on their princess. An elder from a Vorten collective leaned forward. His voice was calm but cold. "Princess Veolyra, your empire must appoint a strategic commander for joint review. We recommend one of your senior admirals." Soft murmurs filled the chamber. Veolyra did not move at first. Her hands were steady at her sides. She already knew what they expected. They expected her to nod, to obey, to select one of the decorated war veterans standing behind her. Instead, she spoke clearly. "I have chosen my mentor." The chamber quieted. "And who," asked another council member, "has the honor of preparing you?" She turned slightly. Near the back of the chamber, leaning against a column as if he did not belong there, stood a human. Commander Elias Rowan. No medals covered his chest. No glowing insignia marked his rank. He wore a simple dark uniform. His hands were folded behind his back. His face showed no emotion. Some council members shifted in discomfort. Humans had a reputation. They were creative, unpredictable, hard to intimidate, sometimes difficult to control. Veolyra's voice did not shake. "I choose Commander Elias Rowan of Earth." For a moment, no one reacted. Then the chamber erupted. "A human? This is reckless." Deathworld tactics are not refined strategy. You risk humiliating your empire. One alien ambassador even laughed openly. Veolyra did not raise her voice. "He is my choice." All attention turned to the human. Elias Rowan did not bow deeply. He did not rush forward. He simply stepped into the light. His eyes met Veolyra's for only a second. There was no softness there, only assessment. The Vorten elder narrowed his eyes. "Commander Rowan, do you accept responsibility for training a royal heir?" Elias spoke in a calm, steady tone. "I accept." The chamber quieted again. "But," he added, "I have one condition." Suspense spread through the room. Veolyra did not look surprised. She had already heard it in private. For 100 days, Elias said, "She is not a princess." The words felt heavier than any weapon. Murmurs returned, but softer now. "What does that mean?" someone demanded. "It means," Elias replied, "no titles, no attendance, no ceremony, no special treatment." His gaze remained on Veolyra. She trains as a soldier. She learns as a strategist. She fails without protection. The council members exchanged uneasy glances. This was not how royal heirs were handled. This was not safe. The Vorten elder leaned back slowly. "Princess Veolyra, do you agree to these terms?" There was a pause. Veolyra removed her crown. The sound of metal touching stone echoed lightly as she placed it on a nearby table. Gasps filled the chamber. "I agree," she said. For the first time, something changed in the room. The laughter stopped. The smiles faded. Because now this was not ceremony. Now this was risk. Elias nodded once. "Training begins at dawn." Without asking permission, he turned and walked toward the exit. Veolyra followed. She did not look back at the council. The massive doors closed behind them with a deep, final sound. Inside the chamber, Silence returned. An advisor leaned toward the Vorton elder. This will damage her reputation. Another spoke quietly. Humans do not train gently. The elder watched closed doors for a long moment. Or, he said slowly, it will damage us. No one answered him. Far down the corridor, away from the glowing chamber, Veolara walked beside Elias. For the first time in her life, no guards followed her. No attendants hovered nearby. The palace halls felt larger than usual. Are you afraid? Elias asked without looking at her. She considered the question carefully. Yes, she answered honestly. He gave a small nod. Good. She frowned slightly. Good. Fear means you understand the cost, he said. They stopped before a simple transport lift. Inside, there were no royal symbols, no decorations, just metal walls. For the next 100 days, Elias said quietly, no one will protect you from failure. The lift doors opened. The training sector waited below. Veolara stepped inside first. Above them, back in the council chamber, private communications began spreading. Predictions were made. Betting systems activated. Many quietly concluded the same thing. A ceremonial princess. A human instructor. 100 days. It would end in disaster. And the galaxy waited to watch her fall. Pie. The first morning began before the lights of the palace had fully brightened. There were no attendants waiting outside Veolara's chamber. No ceremonial robes laid across polished tables. No crown. Only a simple gray training uniform placed on a metal chair. She stared at it for a long moment. For years, servants had dressed her. Now she dressed herself. When she stepped into the training sector, Elias was already there. No greeting. No bow. Late, he said calmly. She looked at the clock on the wall. She was exactly on time. You said dawn, she replied. I said before dawn, he answered. He turned and walked away. That was the first lesson. The first week stripped away comfort. Her sleeping quarters were moved from the royal wing to a narrow room near the training hangar. The bed was firm. The air was cooler. Meals were simple and timed. There were no speeches, no formal announcements, just drills, physical endurance in low-gravity chambers, balance exercises while alarms blared unexpectedly, hours inside tactical simulators where enemy fleets moved faster than she could think. At first, she relied on instinct. She attacked too soon. She ordered counterstrikes without full data. She defended her decisions loudly when they failed. Each time, the simulation ended in defeat. And each time, Elias only said one word. Why? The first time she answered quickly. Because they were advancing. Why did they advance? She hesitated. The next time she failed, she grew frustrated. They outnumbered us. Why did they outnumber you? Her jaw tightened. By day 10, she realized he was not judging her. He was dismantling her thinking. On day 14, she lost a simulated colony because she reacted emotionally to a provocation message. The enemy fleet had sent insults about E3 weakness. She ordered immediate retaliation. The result, resource exhaustion and collapse. Elias paused the simulation. What did they attack first? He asked. Our pride, she said quietly. And you defended it. She looked down. That night, she lay awake longer than usual. The next morning, the drills changed. He began testing her awareness. He would drop objects behind her without warning, activate sudden sound pulses, change environmental gravity mid-movement. If she flinched or reacted without thought, he reset the session. Control the first reaction, he told her. Your body moves before your mind. Slow it. At first, it felt impossible. Her heart raced too fast. Her thoughts scattered. But Elias never raised his voice. He never showed anger. When she stumbled, he waited. When she grew defensive, he remained silent until she calmed. His composure was steady, almost unsettling. It made her feel loud, even when she wasn't speaking. On day 22, during a complex fleet simulation, she anticipated an enemy strike too early and repositioned her ships. The enemy did nothing. Her fleet drifted out of formation. She lost again. Elias stepped beside her. "You are trying to prove yourself," he said. She did not answer. Strategy is not performance. It is observation. She swallowed her frustration. By day 30, she stopped speaking during simulations. She watched. She waited. She began noticing patterns. Enemy scouts always moved first. Electronic signals increased before major attacks. Supply lines shifted before aggression began. For the first time, she did not respond immediately. She delayed. She gathered data. And sometimes she did nothing at all. On day 35, the enemy fleet taunted her again. She ignored them. 2 minutes later, their formation shifted slightly to the right. She noticed. She rerouted power quietly and prepared defense without revealing it. When they attacked, she was ready. It was her first clean win. Elias only nodded. Better. The word felt more powerful than applause. The physical training intensified after that. Long hours under artificial gravity. Running drills with limited oxygen. Strategic puzzles while exhausted. She failed many of them, but she no longer argued. She no longer defended her mistakes. Instead, she asked simple questions. What did I miss? Elias would answer in the same calm tone. Your breathing, your timing, your assumption. By day 45, something had changed. Her movements were slower but sharper. Her voice was quieter. Her eyes moved constantly, tracking everything in a room. Even outside simulations, she noticed details. Guard rotation patterns, energy fluctuations in corridor lights, the subtle pause before someone spoke. On day 50, the council observed her through secure feeds. They expected to see exhaustion. Instead, they saw stillness. A final simulation played out before them. 3 hostile fleets approached her colony from different vectors. Previously, she would have chosen one to confront first. Now she waited. She allowed them to close distance. She let them believe she was unprepared. Then she redirected a small group of unmanned drones to simulate vulnerability. The largest enemy fleet shifted course to take the bait. The other 2 adjusted formation in response. She smiled faintly. Predictable, she murmured. Within minutes, their formation collapsed into defensive positioning instead of coordinated attack. She had not fired a single shot. The simulation ended. Success. In the council chamber, silence settled. One advisor leaned forward. She is not reacting, he whispered. Another nodded slowly. She is calculating. Back in the training room, Elias studied her carefully. You hesitated, he said. She shook her head. No, I waited. For the first time, something close to approval softened his expression. Good, he said. Veolyra no longer felt like someone trying to protect her pride. She felt like someone studying a board before moving a single piece. And far above them, in the high chambers of the Galactic Council, unease began to grow. The princess they had expected to fail was disappearing. Something quieter was taking her place. By day 51, the training changed again. The physical drills did not stop, but they were no longer the focus. Elias brought Veolyra into a dark strategy room filled with floating data screens. Lines of trade routes, energy grids, and communication networks stretched across the air like glowing webs. This, Elias said quietly, is where wars are decided. She studied the projections. These are civilian systems. Yes, he replied, and that is why they matter. He introduced what he called human strategic principles. Win before the fight begins, he said. She listened carefully. If the enemy cannot move, cannot coordinate, cannot resupply, the fight ends before it starts. He moved his hand through the projection. Supply routes dimmed. Fleet movement slowed. Disable capability not lives, he continued. A destroyed ship creates anger. A powerless ship creates surrender. Veolyra felt the weight of that. And remember this, Elias added, his voice steady. Information is stronger than weapons. From that day forward, her lessons shifted toward systems, not soldiers. She learned cyber strategy. She studied how fleets communicated, how commands were encrypted, how panic spread faster than missiles. She traced how resources flowed from factories to frontline ships. At first, it overwhelmed her. The networks were complex. Every decision affected 10 others. She misjudged power redistribution and caused a simulated blackout that hurt her own colony. Elias did not criticize. "Where did the failure begin?" he asked. She reviewed the logs. "In assumption," she said finally, "I assumed their supply was limited. And it was not." "Good," he said. "You are learning to question yourself." By day 60, she began mapping deception patterns. Instead of confronting enemy fleets directly, she altered sensor data. She created false fleet signatures. She simulated retreat while secretly strengthening defensive lines. During one simulation, an advanced AI commander adapted quickly and countered her diversion. She did not panic. She fed it incomplete data. The AI miscalculated. It overextended. She shut down its logistics chain quietly. Victory. The Council began requesting access to her sessions. Observers from different species watched through secure feeds. At first, they expected aggression. Instead, they saw patience. On day 68, she allowed a hostile fleet to cross halfway into her territory without response. An observer whispered, "She is hesitating." Elias remained silent beside her. Veolyra watched the fleet's energy output spike. She redirected minor infrastructure power to civilian shields, masking it as routine maintenance. The enemy misread the signal as weakness. They accelerated. When they entered the inner zone, their navigation systems glitched. Supply coordinates scrambled. Their own targeting arrays began reading friendly vessels as obstacles. She had never touched their ships. She had touched their data. The fleet withdrew in confusion. No casualties. The observers fell quiet. By day 75, she no longer looked for approval after victories. She simply reviewed performance logs and asked for adjustments. "Your move on minute 4 was slow," Elias noted once. She nodded. "Because I was waiting for confirmation." "Trust your prediction," he replied. Trust. That word stayed with her. On day 82, a combined species AI cluster was deployed against her. It adapted to every tactic she used before. It learned from her delays and anticipated her patience. For the first time in weeks, she lost. She leaned back and closed her eyes. What did it exploit? Elias asked. My consistency, she said softly. The next session, she broke her own pattern. She responded faster than usual in the opening minutes, surprising the AI. Then she slowed again, creating unpredictability. She disrupted supply routes instead of communication nodes. She targeted morale broadcasts instead of shield systems. The AI stalled. Then it collapsed. By day 90, whispers spread across the council chamber. She is not attacking, one ambassador said. She is controlling, another corrected. On day 95, multiple species formally requested observation rights to her final evaluation. The chamber filled with silent watchers on day 99. The scenario was severe. 3 coordinated enemy fleets, electronic warfare interference, economic sabotage within her home system, civil unrest simulations triggered simultaneously. The timer began. In the past, she would have chosen one threat first. Now she did nothing for 20 seconds. Some observers shifted nervously. Then she began issuing quiet commands. Civilian networks rerouted to isolate unrest triggers. Emergency reserves redirected without public alarm. She injected false targeting data into one fleet, causing it to slow. The second fleet attempted to flank. She exposed corruption data within their command chain, triggering internal distrust. The third fleet accelerated in confusion. She did not engage them. She disabled their supply synchronization instead. Fuel reserves misaligned. Ammunition transfers halted. Communication delays widened. 7 minutes passed. 9 minutes. All 3 fleets stalled, unable to coordinate, unable to strike, unable to retreat effectively. Not one simulated weapon had fired. The system declared total strategic paralysis. The chamber was silent. No cheers. No applause. Just quiet understanding. Elias looked at her, but said nothing. She stood calmly, reviewing the data as if it were routine. In the high chamber above, the council members exchanged long glances. This was no ceremonial air playing a command. This was something else. The council realized she was no longer thinking like royalty. She was thinking like a human commander. Day 100 did not feel like a celebration. It felt like judgment. The Grand Strategic Chamber was filled beyond normal capacity. Representatives from 12 major species occupied the upper tiers. Observers from smaller systems watched through secure projections. Even independent trade coalitions had requested access. At the center of the chamber stood a single command platform. Princess Veolyra stepped onto it, without a crown. She wore the same gray training uniform. No royal markings. No ceremony. Across the room, Commander Elias Rowan stood against the wall, silent as always. A senior council moderator raised his hand. "This will be a live multi-species strategic trial," he announced. Real-time adaptive simulation. No preset outcomes. The air shifted as the projection field activated. Stars filled the space around Veolyra. Fleet markers appeared in red. "Scenario begins," the moderator said. Immediately, 3 hostile fleets formed a triangle around her home system. At the same time, warning alerts flashed. Economic sabotage detected. Trade networks compromised. Civil unrest triggers activated across 2 major cities. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The assault was layered. Fleet pressure, financial instability, public panic. In past trials, commanders responded to the largest threat first. Veolyra did not. She stood still for several seconds. Observers leaned forward. Then she began issuing calm, precise commands. Isolate trade node 7. Redirect through auxiliary channel. Economic graphs stabilize slightly. Deploy public communication buffer. Limit unrest signals to local networks. Civil panic indicators slowed. 1 hostile fleet accelerated, launching simulated strike drones. She did not engage them. Instead, she accessed supply chain mapping. Disrupt fuel synchronization for Fleet Alpha. The red fleet icon flickered. Behind her, observers whispered, "She is ignoring the attack." "She is ignoring nothing," another replied. The second fleet attempted electronic warfare interference. Navigation signals around her system blurred. Veolyra adjusted her posture slightly. Inject mirror coordinates into Fleet Beta navigation grid. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then the second fleet's formation shifted unexpectedly. Their own vessels recalculated distance incorrectly, spreading too far apart. The third fleet advanced aggressively, weapons powered. Veolyra finally looked toward them. Begin corruption trace on Fleet Gamma command channel. Data streamed rapidly. Within moments, a hidden financial ledger appeared across the projection. Illegal trade agreements tied to the fleet's leadership. Gasps filled the chamber. The simulation amplified the effect. Fleet Gamma's cohesion dropped. Internal command trust destabilized. Meanwhile, Fleet Alpha's fuel reserve began misaligning due to earlier supply disruption. Fleet Beta struggled with navigation recalibration. 9 minutes passed. No weapons fired from her side. No counterstrike launched. Only quiet adjustments. The unrest indicators within her cities dropped to safe levels. Economic flow restored. The 3 hostile fleets attempted to regroup. She blocked their communication relays through targeted bandwidth saturation. Their coordination fractured. One by one, red fleet markers dimmed. Not destroyed. Not eliminated. Just paralyzed. The simulation timer froze. Total strategic collapse, the system announced. Silence followed. The projection faded, leaving only the stillness of the chamber. No one clapped. No one spoke. They had expected force. They had expected retaliation. Instead, they had witnessed control so complete it felt unsettling. A council member finally broke the silence. "She fired nothing," he whispered. Another answered softly. "She didn't need to." Veolyra stepped back from the platform. Her breathing was steady. She did not look proud. She did not look relieved. She simply looked finished. The moderator scanned the results again. No civilian casualties, he said quietly. No infrastructure destruction, only systemic paralysis. Across the chamber, representatives exchanged uneasy glances. If she could do that in simulation, the thought went unfinished. Elias pushed away from the wall and stepped forward at last. He did not address the council directly. He looked at Veolyra for a moment, measuring something only he understood. Then he spoke a single sentence. She learned restraint. The words carried more weight than any speech. Restraint meant she could have done more. Restraint meant she had chosen not to. The realization settled heavily over the room. The princess they once doubted now stood as something far more dangerous than a conqueror. She was disciplined. She was patient. She was precise. And most of all, she was controlled. The chamber remained silent long after the trial ended, because they understood what had changed. Not just her skill, her philosophy. Power was no longer about dominance. It was about decision. And Princess Veolyra now knew exactly how much force was necessary, and exactly how much was not. Months passed after day 100. The council chamber returned to routine debates. Trade agreements resumed. Public attention shifted to other matters. But in quiet military channels, something had changed. Princess Veolyra no longer attended strategy meetings as a symbolic presence. She led them. Reports flowed through her command center daily. Fleet rotations, supply audits, communication scans. She reviewed everything with the same calm focus she had learned during those 100 days. Then the alert came. Outer Dominion space. Unidentified vessels. Pirate-class signatures. At first, it seemed minor. Small groups often tested borders, looking for weak patrol zones. But this time was different. The pirate armada moved in coordinated formation. 6 heavy carriers, multiple support craft, electronic interference already disrupting minor trade routes. They believed the Dominion was still ceremonial. They believed the stories of training were exaggerated. They expected hesitation. Veolyra stood in the central command room as a holographic map displayed the red fleet icons entering her territory. Officers watched her carefully. "Shall we deploy strike wings?" one asked. She studied the formation quietly. "No," she said. A message channel opened to the pirate flagship. Her voice transmitted clearly across open space. "You have entered protected Dominion territory. Disengage immediately." Silence followed. Then laughter echoed through the channel. A rough voice responded. "Or what?" The signal cut. In the command room, tension rose. "They are charging weapons," an officer warned. Veolyra's expression did not change. She gave a series of short, precise commands. Initiate supply chain disruption on pirate fleet. Deploy navigation interference protocol. Lock targeting systems through encrypted saturation. Her hands moved calmly over the console. On the projection, the pirate fleet advanced. Then something flickered. One carrier's weapon systems dimmed. A second ship's engines misaligned. Communication chatter spiked wildly as their channels filled with overlapping signals. Weapons offline. A Dominion technician confirmed. Engine response failing across 4 vessels. The pirate flagship attempted to turn. Its navigation grid scrambled. Coordinates shifted randomly across their system. Inside the pirate command bridge, confusion replaced confidence. They had not been attacked. No Dominion ship had fired. Yet their systems were collapsing. Back in Dominion space, Veolyra issued one final command. Expose fleet command financial logs. Within seconds, intercepted data streams broadcast evidence of internal theft and hidden profit schemes across pirate ranks. On the pirate channels, shouting erupted. Accusations spread faster than orders. Their formation broke completely. Dominion command. The pirate leader transmitted at last, voice tight. "We surrender." Total elapsed time, under 6 minutes. No ships destroyed. No casualties. No debris. Only silence. In the Galactic Council chamber, emergency observers watched the replay in disbelief. They did not engage physically. One ambassador murmured. "They neutralized them," another replied. The official report was entered into the archives. E3 Dominion, Tier 1 strategic power. Annotation added quietly by multiple species. Human trained doctrine. In the weeks that followed, border incidents declined sharply, not because the Dominion had become aggressive, but because everyone now understood. They did not need to fire. One afternoon, as routine briefings concluded, a young cadet approached Elias in a quiet corridor of the Dominion command station. The cadet hesitated before speaking. "Commander Rowan?" Elias turned slightly. "Yes." The cadet glanced toward the strategic display screens, where Veolyra calmly reviewed fleet reports. "Why teach them this?" the cadet asked. "Why give them that level of control?" Elias considered the question carefully. He looked through the observation window at the vast stars beyond. "Because if someone is going to hold power," he said slowly, "they should understand its cost." The cadet frowned slightly. "And if they don't?" Elias' expression remained steady. "Then they shouldn't have it." Across the room, Princess Veolyra adjusted a fleet rotation schedule, ensuring patrol routes avoided civilian trade lanes. Her movements were precise, measured, deliberate. Months ago, the galaxy had expected disaster. They had predicted humiliation. Instead, they had created something far more unsettling. A leader who could dismantle an enemy without hatred. A ruler who could paralyze a fleet without destruction. A commander who chose control over dominance. The galaxy had not feared the ethery princess when she wore a crown. They feared her now, because she no longer ruled by title. She ruled by decision.